Hello, my name is Rob, and I'm from that channel Performance Check. Just going to move my microphone. There we go. That's better. Um, in 1986, a comic book was released in which arguably one of the most famous comic book characters of all time, Batman, uttered the words, "This would be a good death." That comic book is called The Dark Knight Returns. And The Dark Knight Returns happens to be one of my, if not my favorite comic book / graphic novel I've ever read. I absolutely adore Batman. Batman is my absolute favorite. And it's that sentiment that I will be discussing today in regards to role-playing games. In particular to an event that happened in a role-playing game last night. And before I talk about that, I will give a spoiler warning just in case, anyone wants to watch it and avoid it, because people should watch Against the Shadow. I know it might seem biased because I play in the game, but Lloyd runs a blinder, so I will be talking about Against the Shadow later on. And it's the thing that I'm talking about, the particular session that occurred last night, only ran for about an hour and a half. And there's a reason why it ran for an hour and a half, which I'm sure it doesn't take a detective. It doesn't take the crime-fighting Cape Crusader, world's greatest detective, to work out why it ran for an hour and a half. But there we go. So whilst I wait for people to show up, I'm just, I don't know. How is everyone? I hope everyone is well. I've had quite a productive day. I've had a weird day. It's been a weird day. I'm not going to go into why it was a weird day. I'm going to focus on why it was a good day instead. It's been a good day because I have potentially a new project in the work in terms of my professional work. I could be potentially going back to writing a show. I've not written a show in a long time. But it's on the cards that I'm going to be writing something to do with Shakespeare. And it's weird because I got talking to someone weirdly about Lawkeepers and about how I enjoy the idea in Lawkeepers is explaining, the myth meeting the man, or the man, or the myth meeting like just a normal person, like where do you draw the line? And Shakespeare has become sort of like a mythical being in history. Like obviously he's a famous historical figure, but there's so much around him that people don't know, and he's steeped in this pantheon of characters and of his work. And I'm kind of good. If I get this, it will mean I'm writing a story about how Shakespeare was a human being and how he had a wife and children. One of those children he sadly lost, a child that some people don't know, but others will, a child called Hamlet. So yeah, that's something exciting that I'm going to be working on. And I always try and make anything about D&D, so this is the closest I'm going to get. But I've said it now, and I've said it in a public forum, so that automatically means that it now won't happen. But I don't know, it was just pretty cool. So I see that a few people have dropped in, so I'm going to go ahead and start talking about role-playing games and stuff. I see Jaron D&D says, "Hi, Performance Check, aka Rob. Hey man, did I say hi, I'm Performance Check? I don't know." Josh says, "Hey all." Jacob Norman, "Hey man," says, "Hey you beautiful British bastard. Hey man, you beautiful American bastard. You talented mofo, man." Like I watched with glee as Barker did his live stream unboxing that dice tower, man. Oh my god. I mean, I'd seen the pictures that you posted on it, but I don't think I'd seen a video of it. And I know, just seeing the video of it, and just, oh man, it was just what a beautiful gesture, man. So you're a wonderful human being. Jeff Dirty says, "Howdy, Rob. Hey man, how's it going?" Hassan says, "Hello." Jaron then says, "It's been a good day for me because I have done nothing other than lay in bed and watch Netflix. I'm so jealous. I would love to lie in bed and watch Netflix." Chad says, "Hola." And then Jeff Dirty says, "That sounds super awesome. I'd love to hear more." about that if the opportunity pans out. Yeah, man, like I mean, if people are interested, maybe I'll talk a bit more about my plans for it at the end of the stream, maybe. But I'm here to talk about role-playing games. I don't want to force my real life on people when we want to talk about our imaginary lives in role-playing games. So I'm gonna go ahead and just say this is a spoiler warning. This is a spoiler warning for Against the Shadow, chapter 16, I believe it is. That happened last night, and I would urge you, I really would. I'm doing a Ryan Johnson. I'm saying, don't watch it, or rather, don't watch this. Go wait for watching that. Although apparently Ryan Johnson has now turned around and said, actually, go ahead and watch the trailer. I watched the trailer, guys. Oh, no. Oh my god, I love Kylo Ren so much. He's like one of my favorite characters of all time. I'm not going to say anything about the trailer, though, because I understand that some people still don't want to watch it, and that's fine. So I won't say anything about the Star Wars trailer, but my God, my life changed when I watched that trailer. Is that too much? Am I too invested in Star Wars? No. The answer is no. You can never be too invested in Star Wars. Jacob Norton says, thanks, dude. Don't have to thank anyone, man. You're just awesome. Taylor says it was an incredible game. It was an incredible game. And Chad then says, I watched and didn't plan on it. Okay, yeah. So for those of you still here, I'm afraid I'm now going to go ahead and spoil it. So should I not? You should, I think, but I'm going to start talking about it now. So if you're still here, then, that's fine. And you don't mind it being spoiled. So events that were leading up to this session were essentially my character Faroth, who was a Ranger of the North, had pledged to free a number of his people from the impenetrable fortress that is known as Gundabad. A number of the Dunedain reside in orc prisons and are being used as a slave labor force. And Faroth, basically, to try and get the North on side for the overall quest of Against the Shadow, which is unite against the Shadow, you've got to get people on side. So Faroth's idea was, well, look, if I free these people, then perhaps like the North can unite behind Faroth. So then he is now pledging the North in support against the Shadow. But the only problem is that Gundabad, as I say, is an impenetrable fortress, and it's littered with orcs and trolls and all. There are fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world, and I'm sure Gundabad isn't any different. And then Caius's character, Beragond, a warden of Minas Tirith, said, hey, man, like, Faroth, you've had some experiences with the dead in the past. And perhaps you can call those fallen Dunedain from ages past to basically help us, sort of Return of the King style, but we didn't say it, but it's kind of like Return of the King. We're basically going to go to a dead city and recruit the dead to help us liberate Gundabad. Goes, yeah, okay, let's do that. So they go to Fornost, which is a fallen city that is now just a ruin. And one thing leads to another, where we suddenly realize that Yap are around and risen in Fornos, but there is an unknown power controlling them. And after an epic battle against an undead warg king and of undead like beings and an undead troll, we realized we needed to get to there's these two towers in Fornos. That is where they were being controlled from. So we rushed to the towers and we're being chased by like an army of undead, of ghouls, just like on our heels the whole time. And we go into how we got inside the tower because it's funny. And you should go watch the session for the how we got into the tower because it's funny. The previous session. And we got into the tower, and we barricaded the entrance to stop the dead chasing us, and then we went up the tower, up the stairs. And we arrived at the top of the stairs, and there's this pale figure floating there who orders us to kneel because we are in the kingdom of the dead and we should bow to him. And a few of us are forced, because we failed saves, to go down to a knee. He's like telekinetically forcing people to like kneel to him. And Faroth does he has this ability from Adventures in Middle-earth, which is called Royalty Revealed, where he can reveal his heritage, and he is of the line of Anarion. Faroth's whole deal is that because the line of Isildur failed, the line of the sibling Anarion is one that pledged to never fall to the shadow, because they don't want us to make the same mistake as the line of Isildur. Related as they are still, but that's where he's from. So he's like, I am of the line of Anarion, and I do not kneel to anyone, blah, blah, blah. And it's really cool. And he goes, you will die, blah, blah, blah. And then the black garments appear, and the sword and the flail comes out, and we realize that we're actually dealing with the Witch King of Angmar. End of episode, end of session. There is then a huge break, a massive break, because for lots of different reasons, Lloyd was doing his production of Holmgang, I believe it was called at the time, and so there was a big break between that session and the one we had last night, where we were just freaking out. And I think quite rightly, we didn't talk to each other about what we were going to do, because it would feel like a cheat. We would have to act in the moment as if no time had passed at all. So we finally get around to playing again last night, and I couldn't help but think of a few things in the back of my mind, leading up to the session. I watched the last session to recap on what I did, and the first thing that happens is that Lloyd says, this is the situation. He recaps it, and he says, roll initiative. And we did, and Faroth sadly goes quite low. I believe I got an 11 on the initiative, which isn't great. And that meant that a bunch of people were going before me, and Dennis's character Nar, the dwarf of the Iron Hills, charges. Syrian, our scholar, goes in to sort of try and beat support, healing support to Nar whilst he's fighting the Witch King and stuff. But the thing that's running through my mind is, there's another tower. And at the end of the first round, I realized we're not touching this guy. I think he could use parry action, so we could just parry stuff, and our experienced, well-trained party were just hitting the Witch King, and he was just batting people aside. He just didn't care, and he was laying waste Lloyd did I don't know what he'd done to stat the Witch King, but mechanically it felt like the Witch King, because we had to make saves to even approach him, because or otherwise we would be terrified. We'd be like, oh my god, just like you would be, they are in the films, they are in the books. They get the scream and people fall back, and oh my god, it's the Nazgul. So it felt amazing, and I had this knot in my stomach this whole game. And it gets to my turn. I'm looking across the tower, and I'm like, Lloyd, how far is the distance between the tower? And he's like, it's about 20 feet. And I'm like, I can't jump 20 feet. And I get Cyneric, Dan's character, who had been forced to kneel. I just lift him up, throw him on the saddle, and I'm telling him, make the jump, take this rope. We're going to basically get a rope between the two towers so we can make an escape, because we can't go down this tower because all the undead are pouring up. So I think, we can go down the stairs to the other tower and make our escape. The only problem is that massive gap, that abyss that is preventing us from our escape. And all the while, the rest of the party are just getting annihilated. Nar, the dwarf, he's got an amazing armor class. He wears full dwarven plate, armor class of 20. Just getting battered about, and gets paralyzed at one point. So then basically every time the Witch King is hitting Nar, he's getting auto crits on him, just going bam, bam, he's got the flail, the vroom, that. Oh man, such a good villain. So it's not going particularly well. And this is the really spoilery part. So if this hasn't like whetted your appetite to go and watch it, by all means go and watch it. But this is what happened next. I'm going to pause. This is the last chance. Go have a sip of tea in a pub. In fact, you know what? I'm going to read some comments because lots of people are talking and I'm ignoring. Hassan says, I haven't watched it yet. Should I or should I not? I think I read that actually, didn't I? Jeff Doty says, I still need to get around to watching the campaign, but I have a feeling I know where this is going already, given what I knew about the premise of this session. Then Chad Allen Smith says, I was referring to the trailer. Depends on if you want to go in or not. Wasn't much revealing in it. Some cool visuals there. I agree. Like, I don't feel spoiled at all by the Last Jedi trailer. I think there's a lot of misdirection in it, but it's a beautiful trailer. It's wonderful. So Chad then says, I don't get to watch many games, really. That's a shame. And that's fair enough. Like, some people aren't into watching games at all, you know. People just like playing them. I like watching some games. If the game gets me, like, I'm like, I want to watch it. Jason, hey, who plays Syrian, is in the chat. And he says, I love how whenever you're about to reveal something, your stream lags. Oh, does it? Oh, that's a shame. I thought I'd got quite a good connection today. Better than what I was used to, admittedly. So that's something. Hopefully it's bearable, guys. Let me know if the stream is bearable, because otherwise I'll try and fix it and come back to this. So yeah, he's paralyzed, and Syrian is desperately trying to help him. Like, Nar's arm gets broken from like at the critical table, like as Lloyd uses the critical table, and like one of his fingers gets like sliced up as well. It's just like horrible injuries are happening to the dwarf, and we can't do anything about it. And my plan basically was predicated on the fact that the rest of them were going to be able to hold their own for a little while before the death would start happening. But it seems that with the Witch King of Agmar, one round is all he needs. Basically, like, he's got legendary actions and he's got lair actions as well. So the Witch King is like stabbing Nar up a tree, okay? And then puts his mailed gauntlet around Nar's throat, the dwarf, lifts him into the air, puts him over the edge of the tower, and just lets go. And that was the first. That was the first death. Or rather, the beginning, because obviously he has a bit of a journey to take. That's morbid. I'm sorry, my computer keeps making noises. There we go, I muted it. Oh, better not do that. There we go. So that's Nar. Nar's gone off the edge of the tower. And I'm like, it's no good trying to make an escape plan if none of your party members are alive. At this point, Cyneric on the horse, who I'd helped back onto the horse, like, had made the jump to make the rope line thing. So we had that set up, but then one of our numbers power. Then the Witch King turns his attention to Syrian, the healer, the scholar, and just wails on him. just like a boo, boo. And you know what was even more terrifying? What made the Witch King so terrifying was the legendary actions. That's what they're for. And I think Syrian, I could be wrong, but I think Syrian mainly went down because of the legendary actions. Like, the Witch King could just go and just like keep hitting Syrian, who isn't a fighter, you know. Like, and he did that thing that the Witch King does to Gandalf's staff, where like he just like obviously focuses or something, and then Gandalf's staff like shakes and bam, and like it explodes. And he did that to Syrian's elven spear, and like Charles a bit narrowly missed Faroth like it's just terrifying. Like a weapon, like a signature weapon gets destroyed. Then Nar's signature weapon also got blown up by that as well. And they're like knocked to the ground. Obviously, Nar's off the edge of the building by now. And yeah, we're still like we're not doing anything to this guy. And then Syrian takes another hit with a legendary action, hits the deck, and then it gets to the Witch King's turn. And oh no, there we go. I'm reconnected. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry the stream's bad. I thought it was going to be all right. So if you didn't hear what I said, Syrian gets knocked down, like is on 0, and the Witch King, he's an evil bastard. Basically, just takes his sword and just goes and like coup de grace, like insta kill, just bam. You know, that's it. Death saves are gone. Syrian has just been impaled and is now dead. Baragon, Caius's character, basically like does this thing where he like fires like an arrow with a rope attached to it to like hook onto one of these like pillars on the sides. You know, like a lot of like the towers in the Lord of the Rings settings have like cool pillars on the corners, like Isengard or whatever. So he sweeps and he's trying to retrieve Syrian to try and do something to try and help. And like goes off the edge, but like Baragon is able to keep himself on the wall because he has these special boots or whatever. I won't go into it, but the point is he goes over the edge and he's holding on to Syrian, so he's away from the Witch King, but now hanging off the edge of a building, right? Which now leaves Faroth, my character. And I'm like, so let me just get this straight. I'm now the only person on the top of the tower against the Witch King. And he looks, my character looks over across the to the other building. He looks at Cynric, and Cynric shouting at him saying, you do not charge him. Don't charge him. We need you. We need the heir of Anarion. Otherwise the North will never join us. You're too important to die. Which is I hate hearing this because I'm like, I'm not important. I'm just a guy. But and they're all saying, don't do it. Don't charge him. Don't go at him. And I'm just there and I'm like, there's no way that I can do this. So I've got all the characters like shouting at Faroth, this thing building up, and then Faroth just takes his blade, the Flame of the North, and charges the Witch King. Because there's no way that people kill Faroth's friends and he doesn't lose control. And he charges the Witch King, and you know what? He actually hits him. He actually hits the Witch King. He just slices him up a treat. Doesn't do an awful lot, but like the thought was there. So now Faroth is now locked in single combat with the Witch King of Agmar. That flail, like terrifying. So 2 people are down, and it's because of Faroth. Faroth's the reason they're here, you know. So he already feels guilty. It's his fault that they're dead. And then, from out of the sky, there's a break in the clouds, and there's a shape in the air, speeding towards the combat. And we look into the air, and we see that it is Gwaihir, the Lord of Eagles. The eagles are coming. Or rather, one eagle is coming. Oh, well, maybe, I think. Or maybe there was 2. I think. Anyway, the eagle is coming. And upon Gwaihir's back is none other than our friend and ally. Spoilers, if you don't want to know, you probably know from the Eagles. Gandalf the Grey. And he just plows into the Witch King with like the eagle, and the eagle lands, and the Witch King is on the ground. Faroth gets knocked to the ground, and Gandalf joins the fray. And Gandalf's like, "You need to," he's like, "Run, fly, you fools!" And Faroth's there like, "No, don't." the Witch King whirls about, fury emanating from his empty hood, and just goes, and there's that shockwave again, and Gandalf's staff explodes. Gandalf is thrown backwards and slides right to the edge and hangs off the edge. So what Lloyd did there is that he used a Lord of the Rings trope of the eagles are coming, people are coming in to save us, and then subverts it entirely by having Gandalf instantly. And then once again, Gandalf shouts to Faroth, "Fly, get your friends, and go. Fly, you fools." And Faroth looks to the Witch King and looks to what remains of his friends and realizes that now Gandalf has come here to help their friends, and if he doesn't use this opportunity to retreat, everyone's going to die. So rather than help Gandalf, Faroth gets onto the eagle and flies off on the back of the eagle, picking up the rest of his friends, including the horse, which was pretty cool. And is about to fly away, basically. He's on his way. We cut to halfway down the tower. Nar is still falling. And Lloyd gives Nar a save. You can make a save to see if you can grab onto the building. It's going to mess you up, and he's already got one broken arm, so he's doing it at disadvantage with one arm, And he just goes, bam, and he grabs onto the tower, and he's hanging there, with one arm. And, Nar's got, 8 health left, he's messed up, but he's alive. But sadly, Nar goes first in this round of combat. And the next thing on the initiative is a lair action. All of this time, lightning has been striking around the tower in an atmospheric way, and we've been having to deck save out of the way. The Witch King's power manifests into a bolt from the blue. And Nar, unknown to us thinking he's already dead, gets hit full on with a lightning bolt whilst he's hanging off the edge of the tower. None of us knew. We didn't know he'd saved himself. We didn't know he'd gone off the edge. And then he gets hit by a lightning bolt. The warrior Nar, the most unfitting end, and he's just blasted away from the tower. And as he's falling, all these ghouls that are climbing up the tower, this undead army, grab onto him as he falls, and he's devoured as he plunges into the undead horde at the bottom of the tower. We cut back to the top. Faroth and the rest of the people are on the back of the eagle, and the Witch King steps on Gandalf's fingers and drops. So there were 3 deaths in total. The first was technically Syrian, who was coup de grace on the ground. Then Nar being hit by a lightning bolt, and then falling more. And then Gandalf. Gandalf the Grey died to save the rest of us.